Hi, it's Laurie at Sew Right Sewing Machines, and today we're going to have a discussion about seam rippers. And why do you say are we going to talk about seam rippers when we're looking at seam construction, right? That's what we are as sewers. We want to build and develop seams. Unfortunately, and most times, I find my trusty seam ripper as my best friend because unknowingly I make a mistake and I have to remove a seam. So we're going to take a look at a few types of seam rippers, and oftentimes you'll find that you have a few different styles in your collection, and each of them can serve its own purpose. So let me go through them all right? This little guy is almost as good as these other guys because the key components of a seam ripper are having the little crook, I say, to rip out that seam, and having that little ball to help guide and support the seam as you rip. Just this week, I discovered, and I am someone who works in a sewing store, that for all these years, I've been using the seam ripper incorrectly. So I'm going to show you the proper way to use it and why that actual little ball is really important in terms of using it properly. Okay. However, I'm going to use it the wrong way to begin ripping a seam. So let's take a look at one of these beauties here. On my sample, as a lot of seams are, it's reinforced. So it's difficult to use it with the ball part without releasing some of these reinforced seams. So I'm going to do it the way that I thought it was, which is in this angle here. If I continue to use it that way, I might poke holes in my fabric. So I am going to try to just release these reinforced seams so I can use the seam ripper properly. And I'm using the least expensive model here. What you're going to find with the less expensive model is this might not be as strong, this might break, and you're not going to get the oomph you need to rip out that seam. So let's see if I release it enough. No, I haven't. I'm going to go back. Maybe I'm going to take a look this way and do something else wrong, but I'm just trying to get that reinforced stuff out. Okay, there's quite a bit of... See, this is a nice strong seam because I can't break it apart. Here we go. I've weakened it enough. You also have to be careful that you're not going to use the integrity of your cloth. I've oftentimes accidentally picked some of this off and I've created a run line, so just be careful. All right, I've managed to weaken the seam enough. So the correct way of using it is to invert this, turn this over so that rests underneath the seam. You've got the ball under the seam, and I'm going to turn this around, and I should be able to, once I've got this ball, I'm going to kind of lift up and hold this part down. This should guide me at ripping it out. So it's the end seam, so it's a little awkward here. So let's do that again. Here we go. See? It's got a nice line. The ball's preventing me from ripping the seam itself. And I can continue ripping on down the end. And maybe I can get through that reinforcement. I did. Okay. Voila. That seam is out. Let's see if I can get this one big unit out on its own. And then I've got all these nibbly nubblies here that I'm going to get rid of. Okay. So this basic seam ripper doesn't address what I call the nubblies. I'm sorry, as I talk I make up words. But here we have all this excess. I'm going to move up the line because this is a seam ripper I own. It has a major components that that little guy has. It has a longer I guess shaft or stem here, so I have a better hold of it, better grip. Also allows me to stick my fingers here so I have a better grip this way. It has a ball, it has that, and I've got a stronger stainless steel component. What's nice if you look at both of these ends is I've got two different styles of getting rid of all the excess lint. So I can simply go like this and get rid of the excess lint here. If I have a smaller piece, I can use the little guy because maybe it's a smaller seam. I can go get rid of it this way. So these are nice in that you can get rid of all of this pretty easily. I would have a trash can or a little bucket near me to get rid of all this excess. I don't have it here, but say that you don't have a little bucket nearby. You could use masking tape if you got one of those little lint brushes to get rid of pet fur or lint on your clothing. That would be a great way to get rid of all of this as well. All right, so I can cap it, and it's sold in this form. So you've got this unit here that covers it and protects this ripper part, and then you've got that end as well. So we've got these two. Another mid-level seam ripper is a Clover one. Nice ergonomic handle. It comes with I guess a plastic sheath that looks like that. So that's more of a mid-range, price-wise seam ripper. Okay. So for those hard of seeing, we also have one here. I haven't opened it up yet, but this has been a popular one. It's got a magnifying glass. So, and it also lights up, there's an LED light. So if you've got something that you can't see very easily, maybe you've got a black thread on black fabric, or you've just got a delicate seam that you've reduced your seam allowance to like 1.5 or 2 millimeters, and you can't really see what you're doing, this would be a great way to help guide you with that. So we also sell this. Another way of getting rid of a seam is using this razor, which Havel makes. And this would be great when you need to do something where you can't necessarily rip a seam the way that I did. Say that you've done some applique and you can't get into the seam, you can kind of finally pick it this way with a nice razor, have it on its angle, and you could pick that out like that. I'd pick it out in sections, and maybe I'd go like this, so that I've established a line, and then work my way through. I might use this in conjunction with that to really get through all of that without ruining my support fabric or the applique. My final one I wanted to show you is say that you added like a border on a quilt, and you put the whole border together, and then you realize it was directional, and that you put the whole border on upside down, and you've got like a 72-inch piece of fabric, and you don't want to rip it this way. Another way to do it is using a quick ripper, which basically is a revised version of a mustache clipper that a sewer decided this is a great product to use as a seam ripper. So let me show you that one real quickly. So let's find me a good seam. Let's do this one. This one's easier. So I'm going to take out that reinforced seam again like this, because you got to start with a fresh run. There we go. Great, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep, oh, this is challenging. I'm going to keep this above because I don't want to nick my fabric. I'm going to turn it on. This takes a couple of batteries. I'm going to lean this flat on the work, and then I'm going to slowly go like this. And you can kind of see as I work across the fabric, it's rather loud. So warn family that you're doing this, or they're going to say, what is going on? Are you shaving your head? Are you removing facial hair? What are you doing? I'm just taking out a seam. This is challenging. I chose this is like removing a middle pleat, so that's why it's taking me a little more time. Okay. So here you have this as a sample. So this would be much quicker if I hadn't shown the center pleat. If I had done the edge, I would have done quick work with that. Again, I would use the lint brush or masking tape to remove all of this excess off. And I do have a long line of bobbin thread that can probably remove pretty easily, like that. Okay, so these are just some of the varieties of seam rippers that are available on the market. Come to Sew Right. We'll help you shop for the correct seam ripper for you. Thanks for joining me today.